What happened the other day? Have you heard about Austin Metcalf, the 16 or 17-year-old? There are some reports saying he's 16, some reports saying he's 17 in Frisco, Texas, just the other day. There are a lot of important things to talk about here, and we have the remedy to prevent this from continuing. You could get together, you could talk about how it sucks, how it's upsetting, how you could talk negatively, as many content creators are allowed to now, even on YouTube. You could say, as those content creators are saying, all the blacks are violent. You could say, stay away from the blacks. Now, they can all say that on YouTube. Is that valuable? They could all say, it's the dues. They could all say that. Has that worked so far? Has that ended the victimization of our people? Your son's next. So there are a couple of really important things to talk about here, and I want to try to stay relatively calm about it. I think the very first thing, I guess, just to say the crux of it, Austin Metcalf was murdered by Carmelo Anthony. And so nowhere else have I seen what should be done immediately, and that is a request for prayers and positive energy to be sent to the loved ones and friends of Austin Metcalf. And briefly, a moment of silence for the murder of another white young man. All right. Thank you. What happened was Austin, who was Austin Metcalf? Well, he was the twin brother of Hunter Metcalf. They lived down in Texas. He was a star athlete. Austin was. He was the MVP of the football team. He had a GPA of 4.0. He wanted to go on and do great things. He was also a Christian, expected to go on into the world and do great things in life. And that is no longer possible. He was at a track meet where I think there was some crazy number of students, like 1,000 students. Many schools were at a big, beautiful stadium in Texas, as they are wont to build. And they were at a track meet. And a Carmelo Anthony, a black, also football player for a different school, a black 17-year-old, skipped school and went to this track meet. So he obviously was not permitted to even be there. He had to skip school. So he skipped school, went to the track meet, and then while at the track meet, decided he was going to pull a power move. He was going to pull a dominance move. Nobody else is talking about this. They're just saying, well, he sat under the wrong tent. It was an accidental. Of course, the anti-whites are going to say, what, is he not allowed to sit in the front of the bus? No. This little monster, anti-white terrorist monster, decided he was going to pull a domination move. And he went and found the rival school's tent. Now you say, tent, what are you talking about, Jason? You'll see in a moment. I'll show you some of the footage. The students put up tents in the stadium so that rain or shine, they can get out of the sun, they can get out of the rain, they can get out of the drizzle. And I believe it was drizzling at the specific moment. Each school's students sit underneath their own tents on the stands. That's the norm. Carmelo wanted to dominate the rival school. And he went intentionally and planted his ass under this tent. At least that's my opinion. All right? Because even though Leonardo can call all non-white people third world mongrels and blame everything on Jews on YouTube, I can't even come close to saying anything like that without getting a strike and having the channel taken away. She's going to tell you to be a racist. And that will, of course, actually ruin your life. It's my opinion that he didn't accidentally choose the wrong tent. It's my opinion that he wasn't just trying to save himself from getting a little bit of water on him. All of these things are preposterous. It's my opinion from a life of experience, especially in athletics, that Carmelo was pulling this dominance move, going and sitting in the reserved space for a rival school. So he plopped himself down there. A kid who has a history of being suspended for bringing knives to school. Good boy. Real good boy. Suspended for bringing knives to school. Plops himself down under the rival school's tent. Students under the tent said, "You're not in the right place. Who are you? Why are you here?" If he were just trying to get out of the rain, if he were just trying to get out of the sun, he would say, "I'm sorry, man. My name is Carmelo. I'm sorry. I came up. I wanted to watch the track. Is it all right if I sit here? I don't mean any, I'm not trying to start anything. I just, can I get out of the rain or get out of the sun for a minute?" That's what he would have said. No, he said, "Make me move. Make me move," is what's being reported that Carmelo said to them. So the rival school, the football player from a rival school, skipping school to be at the track meet, a history of being suspended for bringing knives to school, sits under the rival school's tent and says, "Make me move." They say again, apparently, "This isn't where you're supposed to be. Get out of here." Unfortunately, Anthony Metcalf was present. And he decided that he was going to enter the conversation, enter the argument. There may have been a grappling. Not much is being reported on exactly. A very brief. It happened this fast. So it could have been that as soon as Anthony stepped up to Carmelo, Carmelo pulls a knife, the kid with the history of being suspended for bringing knives to school, and shoves the knife into Anthony's chest, and it goes between his ribs and hits his heart. And Anthony falls to the ground on the bleachers. And before a full second is passed, Hunter, his twin brother, has him in his arms and is pressing on the wound, but it's not going to help. Because literally, his twin brother has his heart pierced and within moments dies in his arms. Carmelo runs from the scene with the murder weapon and the backpack that he brought, and he's captured by the police. And the police get on the radio and they say, "We have the suspect in custody." And Carmelo, it's reported that he yelled, "I'm no suspect. I did it." Carmelo says, "I did it. You got the right guy." What happens after that? Well, there's a lot to explore about what happens after that. Let's have a look at some of the footage.
Where police say that a student was stabbed to death by another student. 17-year-old Austin Metcalf's father says the dispute started over a seat in the stadium. Meredith Yeomans has his heartbreaking interview and how Metcalf is being remembered tonight.
I feel like it was senseless. This shouldn't have happened.
From a packed prayer vigil at Hope Fellowship Church.
you break this up.
To the home of the victim's family.
I will never be the same.
Tonight, friends and relatives of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf are leaning on faith.
I can't really understand everything, but I just believe in God and my faith will get us all through this.
Jeff Metcalf is father to Austin and Hunter Metcalf, brothers who were both at the track meet where today's tragedy happened.
They were twins, identical twins, and his brother was holding on to him.
So you could see the tents there where Austin, thank you, was seated, and Carmelo, whose last name is Anthony, came over and murdered him.
Trying to make it stop bleeding. And he died in his brother's arms.
The horrific outcome unfolding at Kirkendall Stadium around 10 this morning. It started, Metcalf says, when a student from another school was told he was sitting in the wrong place.
I want you to look at that scene right there. This guy's in a hazmat suit, spraying and cleaning up the blood of this white young man that pumped it all out right there in that stadium. Let that sit with you. Don't let also your first thoughts be for Carmelo.
End result, he stabbed my son in the heart and killed him.
That's the extent of this?
That's what it was over. Something so small, so trivial.
17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, a student athlete at Centennial High School, was arrested and charged with murder.
I've already forgiven him. That's for my peace, not his.
Metcalf says his son Austin had a 4.0 GPA, was MVP of his football team, and a member of his track and field team. In a matter of hours, more than $40,000 have been donated to his online fundraiser.
He was loved by many. He was a leader. He believed in God. He was a great kid. Made me the proudest father in the world.
A community coming together to mourn a young life lost. Frisco ISD says Austin's death will be acknowledged tomorrow during second period at Memorial High School, and that counselors will be available through this grieving process. In Frisco, Meredith Yeomans, NBC5.
Police arrested the suspect. He is 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony of Frisco. He is now charged with murder. Some students unfortunately witnessed this deadly encounter and have been interviewed by police. Despite life-saving efforts, the 16-year-old victim died at the hospital. Austin, his father shares, was born 2 minutes before his twin brother Hunter, the two inseparable, as you can imagine. Austin is being remembered as an outstanding student at Memorial High. His football team's MVP and a young man of faith. His father grappling with loss and forgiveness.
I'm not trying to judge, but what kind of parents did this child have? What was he taught? He brought a knife to a track meet, and he murdered my son by stabbing him in the heart. The guy was in the wrong place. They asked him to move, and he bowed up. This is murder. I don't know. I know they have someone in custody. And you know what? I already forgive this person. Already. God takes care of things. God's going to take care of me. God's going to take care of my family.
The victim's father says these two teens did not know each other before today. We do need to stress that police have not said what they believe led up to this deadly encounter. There is a prayer vigil tonight at 7 p.m. at Hope Fellowship Church right here in Frisco. Reporting live in Frisco, Maria Guerrero, NBC5.
Unbelievable. All right, Maria, thank you. Our hearts go out to that family tonight.
We'll begin with some of the exploration of, like what you just heard from the father. Listening to this, Fox 26 down there in Texas, and what Fox 26, conservatives, first thing out of their mouths, what they had to share.
We've been focusing a lot here at Fox 26 Houston about the epidemic of youth violence. And now we have this story out of Frisco, Texas.
That's the problem. The epidemic of youth violence. So let's talk about that. Conservatives are going to tell you, as they have for generations, they're going to turn this into an abstraction. Youth violence. How do we deal with the youth violence? You're not addressing the problem. Don't let your first thought be that the problem is black people, irrespective of what their crime rates are, irrespective of what black neighborhoods or non-white neighborhoods in general are like, irrespective of that, because that's not the path to correcting our victimization. That's not the path to leading to our ending to our victimization. Great example here of the conservatives leading you astray. Youth violence, you're going to be hearing this repeated across the board, euphemism for anti-whiteism in Western civilization. It's going to be, it could be youth violence. It could be people who can't find work, violence. It's going to be anything that they can fit in there other than the reality, other than what it is. Your grandmother is going to be coming to you. Your mother's going to be coming to you, and they're going to be talking about the youth violence, and they just don't understand it. And you're going to be able to use this as an opportunity to transition to something that is productive when they say this. I wanted to include that clip specifically for that purpose. There's no way that you're not going to be hearing this from cucks in your life and cucks online. It's not a race thing. It is a youth violence thing. Oh, really? It is a race thing because, and now you can go into these different subjects, the white erasure of our norms. It's our norms about how you behave and how you treat and what punishments. Well, how would that stop Carmelo from murdering Austin? Oh, well, if Carmelo grew up in an environment where people were properly punished, like the white people I showed you before we started the story, Carmelo would have been on his best behavior. If his community is obliterated with executions and imprisonments and etc., the same way that community would be obliterated if it were white, the Carmelos that are left out there are on their best behavior. A couple of other quick points I want to make before we get into the mother and the son and the father's responses here is that there is a little 25% Mexican who apparently said that it hurts when addressing this, that it hurts his racial pride when he sees white people losing fights and losing their lives. If that's happening for you, you are suffering as a selfish individualist. You are not going to make it through the bottleneck unless you fix that. That is evidence that you are a selfish individualist. If you look at Austin losing his life and you think, dang, my pride, the white guy should have won. I mean, everything I've told you all about what motivates these selfish individualists and how sick the white race is true. It's visible if everywhere around you, if you have eyes to see. What is it that so many of these people who want to just complain about blacks or complain about Jews, what's motivating them to do that? Not their concern for the white race, like they pretend, because they're not thinking at all or saying anything at all about Austin, about Hunter, who also died that day. They're not thinking about them at all. They're thinking about blacks are violent. Blacks have low impulse control. They're thinking when they say that about themselves, because they're afraid to go out in public where there might be blacks And they don't like having to fear that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that in another context. But in this context, it is the death of the white race. When they see Austin and his brother Hunter die that day, they think, oh shit, my racial pride is hurt because yet again a white guy lost to another black guy. I can't imagine being so selfishly individualistic that you could read about this story, you could see these media reports of it, and think about yourself. And especially something so superficial and just odious. Your racial pride, you disgust me, you pig. In fact, no, you're too little to be you're a fucking piglet, you little bitch. Your racial pride is hurt? Anybody talking about their racial pride is hurt over this, or blacks are violent, or what have you, so they can't go out in public, shouldn't be heeded for another second. Again, it has nothing to do with the crime stats of blacks and whether or not it's safe for a white person to go into a black neighborhood. It has everything to do with the fact that one of our sons, one of our brothers, was just murdered as a consequence of anti-whiteism. Because you see, just like Audrey Hale, Carmelo Anthony was weaponized against the white race. He grew up in that environment where he learned, irrespective of what his genetic proclivities or rearing proclivities or whatever it might be, irrespective of any of that, he grew up in an environment learning that the white race has done nothing throughout all of history but victimize non-whites, and especially blacks. Stolen everything from them. I mean, hell, Fox News has that Hotep Jesus on, who said that blacks founded the Americas, that they were the Egyptians, that everything that they had, super scientific societies, were all stolen by the white race. And now, here's Austin trying to make him get up from his seat and move over to his own tent. He was weaponized. Anti-whiteism did this. You cannot end this and prevent this from happening again. And that is the only justice you could do for Austin and his brother Hunter. The only justice you can do for them is to take productive steps to prevent this from happening again. Everyone right now who is complaining about blacks, who is complaining about Jews, who is complaining, etc., complaining that their racial pride is hurt, are insulting the memory and guaranteeing that more Austin and Hunters are going to be murdered, that more white people are going to hold their loved ones in their arms as they bleed out and they see the life leaving their eyes, trying to speak, trying to say their final words, watching the eternal night close in on them. They are guaranteeing it. You should hate these people. Who should you hate? The conservative content creators, the anti-Jew spurgs. They are the ones guaranteeing that this will happen again. And obviously the anti-whites. You have to first pull down these false prophets, these misleaders, these misrulers. You have to first pull them down because they are the faux resistance that guarantees there will be more Hunters shedding tears onto their brother Austin as he dies. The both of them giving the last gasps of their lives. For God's sake, how many more? And so we could talk about what is true and yet really facile. This was a productive young man. Such a trite thing that cucks are wont to say in America and across the West. He was a producer. He would have benefited society. Who knows? He could have gone on and cured cancer. You've all heard this. We've all heard it and said it thousands of times. It's trite. It's flippant, as a matter of fact. True, but trite and flippant. It's trifling. He would have been a producer. He would have been a contributor. And when you say these things, are you hearing what I just taught you about selfish individualism? He would have made your life potentially better. He might have cured cancer. True. But who are you thinking about? He might have become a police officer and saved you from some horrible outcome of some malefactor's misdeeds. Who are you thinking about? White people don't have a people. All of these people out there, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment, warning us about threats to our people. There ain't nobody to talk to. So this will continue. You don't give a shit about the white people getting murdered. You don't give a shit about the white people left behind who have to live the rest of their lives with the loss of their son, their brother. What about the life that Austin deserved? What about the family that he would have had? What about the wedding? What about the buying the engagement ring? What about getting the promotion he deserved after working for it? What about the feeling of achievement he would have had starting his own business? What about the birth of his first child? That is what white people should be thinking about. To really drive it home, that's what Jews think about when they think about fellow Jews getting killed. What's wrong with you, white people? Why isn't Trump saying that Austin could have been his son? The way that Obama said that Trayvon Martin could have been his son. You remember Trayvon? He was the goodest boy that ever gooded in the country. Except Zimmerman, a non-white Hispanic, who we were treated to the lie that he was a white guy. They were white pixelated Zimmerman. Remember that? When they white pixelated him and told you he was white? And then they backed off and he's a white Hispanic. And then they finally backed off all the way when all the information came out about him identifying as non-white. Trayvon Martin, the goodest boy that's ever gooded anywhere and anytime. And Obama stepped up and said, he could have been my boy that these white devils murdered. No such thing coming from Trump, unless somebody wants to correct me. I haven't seen anything from Trump. You know why this is? Anti-whiteism. When the conversation of immoral versus moral at every dinner table, at every lathe and water cooler and bus stop makes its way from the poorest, most vile wretches in society all the way up through the people elected president, you have the winning strategy. That same strategy, and you'll see when it comes to Jeff Metcalf, the dad, that same strategy prevents Trump from stepping up and defending the white race. Because if Trump were to step in here and say that could have been my son, what he's saying is he's white like me. He's white like us. Just like Obama was saying, Trayvon is non-white like us. Non-white like me. What about all the white people criticizing blacks all over Twitter and all over YouTube I've seen in the past couple of days for standing with Carmelo? Have you seen this? How disgusting the blacks are for standing with Carmelo. He's clearly the murderer. Why do blacks do this? Because they're healthy. Because that's a healthy peoplehood. Now, it doesn't mean that all black people should be standing with Carmelo to be healthy. I'm talking about peoplehood within a race. Clearly, there are going to be sane black people who are going to look at the evidence and say, here is your villain, here is your victim. End of conversation. But the peoplehood in the black race drives that percentage of the overall black race to stand with their brother. And so I say to you, white race, you keep criticizing the behavior of peoplehood, as we were talking about last Sunday when it comes to Jews. Or was it on Wednesday that we were talking about that? You keep criticizing that, and you're going to hell. We don't need to criticize black people for standing together, even when the evidence looks like this. We need to emulate them. We need to do it better than they do it. We have to stand with Austin. Imagine this. The white race is so sick that they can't even stand with the victim. And a percentage of the black race relative to peoplehood is so healthy that they stand with the murderer. And the white race criticizes this. There's no hope for you people. No hope for the white people that are going to criticize that behavior. It is when Jews do it, when that percentage of Jews of the overall group, percentage of blacks of their overall group, percentage of Hispanics of the overall group, percentage of Arabs of the overall, everybody else, when they do that behavior, that is the most noble, glorious behavior that any human being could ever invest themselves in. And if the white race doesn't learn it in time, it's over for us. Final thing I want to say before I look at the father's video and talk about that, and the mother and the brother, is anti-whiteism suffuses every single element of Austin being murdered. One of those elements is what his father, Jeff, taught Austin. Undoubtedly, after listening to Jeff in these interviews that he's done, he taught his sons, everybody's just like you. Everybody in the world around you is white. Everybody in the world around you thinks and feels and is motivated the exact same way that you are. That's anti-whiteism. Deep, poisonous, diseased anti-whiteism. And so when Austin stepped up to Carmelo, he was projecting his biospirit onto Carmelo. He was thinking that if he were being an ass and finally confronted, he would walk away. Maybe there would be a shouting match or whatever, but it's certainly not going to escalate to murder. So in a big way, Jeff, along with Austin's teachers, news and entertainment media, etc., are responsible by way of anti-whiteism for Austin being murdered that day. He had no idea what he was stepping up against. His father didn't teach him that there are monsters in this world. Let's take a look at what the mother, Megan, and the brother, Hunter, had to say.
I heard your husband say within hours of this that he forgave this other young man, and he got there so quickly. And I honestly don't know that I could. And I just want to see, and I don't know if there's a right or a wrong place to be, especially as quickly as this has happened.
You're going to hear in a moment that the mother and the son, although in a healthier place, and let's hope the mother, she sounds the healthiest, continues in a healthy direction.
Megan, how do you feel on that front today?
I am not like their dad. I am so angry.
She said, I'm not like their dad. This pulls the absolute heart out of me. And that's what you should be experiencing. You can change your focus. You can stop following these misleaders and these miscontent creators, and you can change your focus. You need to experience this mother's pain. If you are cussing blacks or cussing Jews or whatever, you're a selfish son of a bitch. And you're not going to be part of what gets left over of the white race.
That boy. It's just not fair. That's all I have.
I understand.
I'd like to say it's forgave, not forgotten, but I'm not at that point yet to forgive that kid Roy. He's my brother. Because, 17 years my best friend, just there in the blink of an eye, I lost him. So I'm not at that point.
I heard your husband's.
All right. So you can hear the mother. She's so mad at that. This is a healthy response. The whole of the white race should feel that pain. If it were healthy, they would. If it were healthy and we were like the Jews, the white Bill Ackmans would show up and would demand change at all of the schools in this county. No more anti-whiteism. The white Bill Ackman billionaires would show up. Too bad there aren't any. They would show up and they would demand no more anti-whiteism taught at any of these schools. And they would use their billions to change the system. You know why that doesn't happen? The white billionaires out there, no white Bill Ackmans. You know what they say? They say, damn Enners. Thank God I got the money to not have to live around them. How do you feel about your response? Now do you see how the selfish individualism of the white race perpetuates this? Ensures the next Austin is murdered? And of course, not only that, nobody's talking about the fact Hunter has been murdered as well. Hunter, you see here, trying to align with anti-whiteism, trying to align with his father's anti-whiteism, is saying there's forgive and forget, and I'm not ready to forgive yet, but at some point I will forgive him. Hunter should become the most driven white positive activist to ever fucking live. That's what he should become. to get back at the system that did this to his brother, that did this to him. How many lives could Hunter save if he did that? How many lives will he ensure is lost if he goes the cuck route and decides to forgive but never forget? Or the non-white route and decide, damn Enners, damn dues, damn whatever. Let's take a look at the dad. This is where the disease really comes out. You saw a piece of it earlier.
It's very unfortunate that this other child decided to make a bad choice that's going to affect him for the rest of his life. I have compassion.
A bad choice. The father in that other video, Jeff Metcalf, said he has already forgiven the anti-white terrorist monster murderer of his son. Already forgiven him. There is no greater capitulation, disservice, and treason to his family. But he's celebrated right now by so much of the white cuck world for being able to forgive. And he's gone further in this interview, saying he cares for Carmelo because he made a bad choice. How sick of a race are we? And I'm going to read what I wrote in a tweet here in just a moment. How sick of a race are we? And how foolish that white people go to the totality of our community and warn us about threats to the totality when white people don't even care about their own sons. The father of the white son murdered in cold blood, quote, "It's not a race thing. It's not a political thing. Do not turn this into a racial thing. It was not. This is a human being thing." Close quote. How could his father say this, I write? And then I give some bullet points in my tweet. Number one, the selfish individualism of the white race. How does it function here? How does the selfish individualism of the white race function here? I mean, this is packed full of lessons if you are intelligent enough to get it. Better for the father and his family to disavow victimization as a member of the white race. Because, and I'll get into that with point two, but the selfish individualism manifests here because, quite frankly, it's better for him as a selfish individualist. It's better for his family for this to not be about a victimization of the white race. What does that guarantee? That there'll be more sons and daughters, white sons and daughters murdered. Two, because the social morality of the West is the anti-white immoral imperative, where defending white victimization is immoral. So, for Jeff, it's going to be worse for him to defend the victimization of he and his family as a victimization of the white race, because the social morality of the white race, or of the West, the social morality of the West is the anti-white immoral imperative, where it is immoral to defend the white race. And 3, he and his family are afflicted with anti-whiteism's precepts. Psychological warfare undermining the will to live in white people. You're at the bottom of the totem pole. You're under the totem pole, white race. You don't matter. Your lives don't matter. And you better act like they don't. Because if you don't, you're immoral. You'll ostracized from your friend groups, from your work communities, potentially fired from their job, maybe not able to get work in the same field again. So as a consequence, you better be okay with the murder of your children, and you better be equally concerned with the angelized black race who one of their own, an anti-white black person, murdered your son. What about his feelings? I mean, can you imagine this? That this guy, Jeff, is so befuddled and drunk and poisoned with anti-whiteism that his own son's murderer has to receive not only his forgiveness, but also his concern for his life.
For every human being. This is not, I want to make this very clear. This is not a race issue. This is not a black and white issue. I don't want someone stepping up on the soapbox trying to politicize this. I don't appreciate some of the remarks I've seen online that people say there was this fight and they don't know. They won't.
This is the most diseased race that has ever lived. You think you're going to go to this race in this state, living inside the anti-white narrative and under the social morality of the anti-white immoral imperative, and warn them about the Jews or the blacks? You think you're going to be able to go to them and tell them, just be racist because you'll live if you're racist? Tell everybody you're racist? No wonder certain YouTube content creators have 20,000 views in hours after dropping a video and are allowed to say numerous comments that would get my entire channel deleted. Finally, after looking at the morass of poisoning and the despicable, egregious state that the white race is in, on top of all of that, you have CRS, Community Relations Service. And we were the first people to ever talk about it, if you remember. Now other people show up and they're like, well, what about CRS? To me, this is going to be the realm of the midwit slop, because it's easy to understand. It takes no burden. It puts no burden on them to have to become active, to have to change their focus, to have to care about their white brothers and sisters for real, not just as a pretext. Why? Because they'll be able to say, well, there's just this system in place and the Jews are in charge. So if you just get rid of the Jews and the system isn't there, and then this white dad would be completely different. Thank you for the wish list, scumbag. Thank you for ensuring that more Austins will bleed out in the arms of their... Every time we cover stories like this, I tell you that if the consensus is this anti-non-white bullshit, or the conservative, if that's the consensus conversation, that there'll be more of this, and every time there is. CRS exists because anti-whiteism exists. That's why it exists. What is CRS? It's a department inside the Department of Justice. They show up with the color of law. When any story, this is really interesting. Really interesting. And if you are not a midwit slop loser, you'll be able to understand. Because why do they show up? What's the outcome that they achieve? They prevent white people from identifying with the white victims. Why would that be their goal if there wasn't anti-whiteism? And then if it is anti-whiteism, that's the motivator, then now you know what you have to deal with. Now you know what you have to struggle with to prevent more of these. When a victimization of white people occurs by anti-whites, whether it's white or non-white, when white people are clearly the target, but especially when it's non-white, but when white people are the target, CRS has offices across the United States, and we've already looked into a couple other countries. UK, 100% sure, has their version of CRS. If it becomes popular, if people begin to know what it is, agents show up under the color of law because they say they're from the DOJ. Read it for yourself. We literally read from their website years ago. We literally taught you about how it was created years ago. They show up and they say in so many words that you want to tell the population this has nothing to do with white people being victimized. It's not racial. Because if you don't, well, whatever you need to hear. You won't be honoring your son. You won't bring your son back. You'll probably get sued. Black people will probably target you. You'll be aligning with neo-Nazis. Here, let us show you a few. You'll be aligning with Nick Fuentes. You'll be aligning with the Blood Tribe. Are you with those people? You don't want to do that. And so invariably, whether it's a white girl getting brutally raped by some anti-white, non-white terrorist and in her head caved in, or it's Austin Metcalf being stabbed in the heart in the bleachers of a game taking place, the parents come out. This has nothing to do with race. Whatever you do, white race, don't think it has anything to do with us being victimized because we're white. Don't think that at all. There's a way to beat CRS, and it is by overcoming the anti-white immoral imperative with the white positive moral imperative. You let CRS show up at the house of a white positive family that has been terrorized by an anti-white terrorist in this fashion, and they're going to tell them where to shove it. Because they're going to be thinking about their individual well-being and the individual well-being of the rest of our people by way of our communal well-being. They're not going to be thinking just about themselves. Fathers up in the Midwest talking about, well, the Mexicans, they make really good food after an anti-white Mexican brutally rapes and caves the head in of their white daughter. This is a sick race. No wonder you have the cucks and the anti-non-whites as the leaders, as the de facto leaders. No wonder the race is so sick. This is the abject rot of selfish individualism, so deep in the white race that immediate family is not even worth fighting for. How much less concern do whites have for the greater family of our people? And you think you can go to these people and warn them about a threat to our collective? They don't even care about their own sons. What fools the white race has been. The white race is finished if it doesn't address the psychological warfare that is anti-whiteism with the tools that create a people out of our deracinated race. So the question is, what are you going to do? What have you been thinking about? Was your first thought a healthy thought? Did you immediately think about Austin and then immediately about his brother Hunter, who was effectively also murdered that day? Because if you did, you're in a healthy place. If he did, you're going to survive the bottleneck. If he did, you are a hero helping to bring about the reclamation of our destiny. If your first thought was about black people, it doesn't mean that you are scum for the rest of your life. You can change your focus. You can become a member of Western kind by thought and action, and not just in birth. You change that focus and you become a hero in our story. You become an activist to prevent this from happening again. None of the wish listing that all of these others are giving you now. And you should be aggrieved to the nth degree when you hear them spouting off with their massive view count and all of the, God, you're so right. You should be aggrieved to the nth degree when they say white people should be burning stores down because this happened. White people should be looting because when you do that, you get what you want. Totally ignoring context and a wish, because that's like saying aliens should come and rescue us. You should see these people as the Pied Pipers that they are. This is it. The sand in the hourglass is running out. Time is running out for the white race. We either use these concepts in the Go Free dialogic that work, or it's over. It's over. And it'll be your son because you didn't care about his son and her son. Maybe forget this piece of shit, Jeff, because he doesn't even deserve Austin. But at least that mother is still healthy. Next, it'll be your son. Next, it'll be your brother because you didn't care about her son or his brother. And then you'll want everybody caring for you. Well, you won't have done the work. And quite frankly, the white people who want to sit around and continue to cuck out to all of these things and continue to talk tough. I had a guy this past week that said he can't stand our live chat because nobody's tough. And I said, you mean talk tough? You mean big tough talk and you do nothing? All these people want to sit around talking tough, being anti-non-white rather than white positive. All of you, you deserve this outcome. You deserve it because you are the ones perpetuating it. Our victimizers are going to be there. They have to be contended with at some point, but you're in the fucking way. When is Jeremy Hambley going to say, wow, this community, Jeremy, hundreds of thousands of views on the video. When is he going to say this community who's actually making a difference in white people's lives clearly have the answers? When is that fat fucking vegetable going to say, shit, you should listen to what they have to say? We should have that guy on. Because until he does that, he is just a fat vegetable making money off of being a cuck. And all the rest of him, I'm just, not him especially, all of the rest of them as well. Grifting off of, did you see that mother? Did you see the pain? If you can't imagine it, did you see that pain? Yeah, well, just don't live around blacks. That's their message. Oh, but you can't get away. Oh, but you don't have the money. Oh, but you are going to have to live in those environments. And it's not going to be just the blacks. It's going to be the Hispanics and the Arabs and the etc. Just don't live around them. The whites tell you behind their high walls. The content creators who hide in the basement of their stone-built grandparents' home who are now dead. You just stay away from all of them. Thanks. While they spin these beautiful yarns about the Aryan race and conquering the world, and look at how much we've done. They spin these beautiful yarns, capturing people's energies and attention. Well, they're funnier or they're dumber, and so people can identify with them. They don't feel insecure by watching the dumb fat slob. They're benefiting from Austin's murder. Texas high school football star Austin Metcalf stabbed in the heart, left to die in twin brother's arms at track meet. That's all there's left of his life. A headline. And these content creators will get their views, and then they'll move on. That's not enough for me. I want to actually put an end to this. Where do you sit?